Melody, famed for her vibrant songs and youthful charm, met a tragic end in a horrifying airplane accident. Though completely unsubstantiated, the eerie whispers surrounding her supposed demise have refused to fade. The legend begins with rumours that spread like wildfire online and through hushed conversations among fans. It was said that Melody, at the height of her career, had boarded a private jet bound for a performance, only for the aircraft to vanish mid-flight. According to the story, the plane never reached its destination, instead crashing into an uncharted area where no wreckage was ever found. Some say the skies that day were clear, making the disappearance all the more chilling, as if some malevolent force had taken her. What makes the tale even stranger is the persistence of her music. Fans claim to have heard faint distortions in her recordings, ghostly echoes or whispered words embedded in the tracks that weren't there before. Some even report seeing her likeness in unexpected places, faint reflections in mirrors or blurred figures in crowds, as though she's trying to reach out from beyond. The name Melody itself became a key part of the legend. Though her real name, Melodia, should have clarified things, it was said that the mistaken moniker Melody was tied to her spectral presence, a way for her restless spirit to keep her memory alive in the minds of her fans. Of course, the truth is that Melody is very much alive, continuing her career despite the rumours. But the legend lingers, a cautionary tale about the power of stories to blur the line between reality and the supernatural. And for those who still hear the faint echoes in her songs, one question remains. If Melody isn't gone, then who or what is singing to them in the dark? The biting wind whipped across the desolate expanse of Ilkley Moor, a desolate landscape shrouded in an eerie silence. December 1st, 1987, a date etched in the annals of the unexplained, a chilling testament to an encounter that defies rational explanation. Retired police officer Philip Spencer ventured onto the moor that morning, his camera in hand, hoping to capture the stark beauty of the Yorkshire landscape. He would capture something far more extraordinary, something that would haunt him for the rest of his days. As Spencer walked, a strange unease settled over him, a prickling sensation at the back of his neck. The air grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy. A low hum vibrated through the ground, a sound that seemed to emanate from the very earth itself. And then he saw it. A craft of impossible design, hovering silently above the moor, its metallic surface gleaming in the pale morning light. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, a shape that defied earthly engineering. Terror seized him, a primal fear that gripped his heart and froze his blood. He raised his camera, his hands trembling, and snapped a series of photographs, each click of the shutter a desperate attempt to document the impossible. The craft remained motionless, its silent presence radiating an otherworldly aura. Spencer, paralysed by fear, could only watch as a figure emerged from the craft, a being unlike any human he had ever encountered. slender, with skin the colour of polished silver, the figure moved with an unnatural grace. Its eyes, large and black, seemed to pierce through him, reading his very thoughts. A wave of nausea washed over him, a dizzying sensation that threatened to overwhelm him. He stumbled backward, his camera falling to the ground, the click of the shutter replaced by the frantic beat of his own heart. The figure glided towards him, its movements silent and fluid. Spencer wanted to scream, to run, but his body refused to obey. He was trapped, frozen in place by an unseen force. The being approached, its black eyes fixed on him, and then it spoke. A voice, not heard with the ears, but felt deep within his mind. A voice that resonated with an ancient power. The voice spoke of things beyond human comprehension, of dimensions unseen, of realities beyond the veil of our perception. Deep within Utah's Escalante petrified forest, legends warn of a curse that brings misfortune upon those who dare to disturb its ancient relics. For countless years, this eerie forest has stood still, haunted by trees turned to stone, their wood transformed into glistening shards over millennia. Tourists marvel at the colours and textures, but there's a rule among locals: never take a piece of the forest home. The curse, they say, is vengeful and patient. Stories tell of visitors who couldn't resist pocketing a fragment of petrified wood, believing they'd taken only a small, harmless memento. But the forest doesn't forgive theft. Those who take from Escalante soon find themselves ensnared in a web of relentless misfortune. One man, who once laughed off the legend, lost his job within a week. His family fell into financial ruin, and he became consumed by regret, unable to escape the shadow of his actions. Others have faced accidents so sudden and strange they could only be explained by the curse. A woman who took a single stone reported a horrifying series of events. Her car veered off the road on her way home, narrowly escaping a fatal crash. Her health began to fail inexplicably, her body growing weaker as if drained by an unseen force. Her nights became plagued with nightmares of twisted, ghostly trees, watching her with hollow, accusing eyes. Desperate to break the curse, people mail pieces of petrified wood back to the park, hoping for mercy. Rangers at Escalante receive hundreds of packages each year, filled with stones and pleas for forgiveness. Letters pour in, recounting stories of illness, financial collapse, and near-death experiences. The packages lie unopened, scattered as grim reminders that the forest does not forget. So, the legend endures, a chilling warning to those who visit. Leave the forest as you found it, or face its wrath. The petrified trees of Escalante may seem still and silent, but they guard their secrets jealously. Those who steal from them awaken a curse, one that clings to their lives, unrelenting until the debt is paid, or until they are no more. Deep in the shadowed forests of Bear Creek, North Carolina, lies a patch of barren earth known as the Devil's Tramping Ground. This ominous circle, located near Harper's Crossroads, is a chilling 40-foot ring where no vegetation grows and no animal dares linger. Locals claim it's cursed, a place haunted by the devil himself, who treads this ground nightly in a sinister ritual. For centuries, Stories have circulated about the eerie clearing. People say that when midnight falls, the devil rises from the underworld, pacing the circle with dark intent, plotting his next act of evil. His heavy, unseen footsteps scorch the earth, leaving it lifeless, unable to support even the smallest blade of grass. No matter how much time passes, or how often people try to replant it, nothing grows in the devil's circle. Brave souls who have attempted to camp within the ring tell of inexplicable occurrences. They report feelings of dread so intense, it's as if a dark presence stands beside them, watching. Items left inside the circle are mysteriously found outside by morning, as if some unseen force cast them aside, angry at their intrusion. Others claim to hear faint whispers in the night, growing louder until they're forced to flee, their minds unravelling from the chilling sensation of being stalked by something unseen. Locals warn that nothing stays in the devil's tramping ground without consequence. Those who have dared to linger too long, mocking the legend, have reported strange misfortunes afterward. Accidents, illnesses, and haunting nightmares of a dark figure pacing circles around them, his fiery eyes fixed upon their very soul. The devil's tramping ground remains, a barren, haunted scar in the woods of North Carolina. It is a place that repels life, an eternal reminder of an ancient evil lurking beneath the surface. And so, the warning endures. If you find yourself near Bear Creek, steer clear of the circle, for the devil still paces there, leaving his mark on the earth, and perhaps on any soul foolish enough to cross his path. Let's journey into the peaceful waters of the Pacific coast, where legends of Cadborosaurus, a mysterious sea serpent, drift in the waves. Relax and let the soothing tale unfold. Cadborosaurus, affectionately known as Caddy, is a legendary sea serpent that has captured the imagination of many along the Pacific coast of North America. Its name is derived from Cadboro Bay, a coastal area in Greater Victoria, British Columbia, where it has reportedly been spotted numerous times over the years. The legend of Caddy has become a staple of local folklore, with stories of its sightings stretching from Alaska to California, although British Columbia remains its most frequent haunt. Described as a massive, snake-like creature, Cadborosaurus is said to possess a long serpentine body, often estimated to be between 10 to 50 feet in length. Witnesses describe its head as horse-like, with large eyes, and sometimes small horns or fins protruding from the sides. The creature is also thought to have humps along its back, similar to the classic sea serpent imagery that has been passed down through various cultures around the world. These humps are often visible as it glides just beneath the surface of the water, leaving a distinct wake in its path. Caddy's elusive nature adds to the mystery surrounding it. There are countless accounts from sailors, fishermen, and beachgoers who claim to have seen the creature, yet no definitive physical evidence has ever been produced to confirm its existence. The creature is usually reported to move with great speed, effortlessly cutting through the water, making it difficult to capture or photograph. Some theories suggest that Caddy could be a type of prehistoric marine animal that has managed to survive in the deep, unexplored waters of the Pacific. Others believe it could be an undiscovered species of giant eel, or a relative of the oarfish, a long, ribbon-like fish known for its impressive size. Throughout the years, various expeditions and succeeded in proving the creature's existence. In 1937, the legend gained even more traction when the carcass of a strange sea creature, believed by some to be caddy, was found in the stomach of a sperm whale. The discovery sparked a flurry of media attention, but the remains were never properly examined, and skeptics argue that the body was likely that of a known marine species. Despite the lack of solid evidence, the legend of Cadborosaurus lives on, inspiring curiosity and wonder about what might still be lurking beneath the waves. In the shadow-laden landscape of American folklore, few tales evoke the chill of the Crybaby Bridge. Across the United States, numerous bridges bear this macabre nickname, each story rooted in a haunting event so sorrowful that the echoes seem to transcend time itself. These structures, often decrepit and isolated, are united by the eerie phenomenon of phantom infant whales that pierce the stillness of the night. One such bridge looms on the outskirts of a small, weathered town, cloaked in the thick mists that rise from the river below. Local legend has it that many decades ago, a young mother, driven by despair and madness, threw her newborn child from the bridge into the icy waters beneath. They say she was consumed by grief and torment over her deed, and that her wails mingled with those of her child in a symphony of anguish. Overcome by remorse, she leapt to her own death, hoping in vain to join her child in the depths. Since that fateful night, those who dare to walk the bridge after dark report hearing the harrowing sounds of a baby's cries, so real and so close that they turn in desperation, searching for the child they can never find. Some also hear the ghostly lament of the mother, a mournful wail that drifts across the river and settles like a cold shroud upon the hearts of the listeners. The Crybaby Bridge has become a rite of passage for the local youth, a test of courage or foolhardiness. Teenagers gather in hushed groups, their voices low, as they dare one another to cross the bridge at midnight. Armed only with flashlights that cast long, ominous shadows, they step onto the creaking wood, each plank groaning under the weight of the grim history it bears. As they reach the centre, where the river runs darkest, the cries begin. At first, a soft whimpering, it soon swells into a crescendo of screams, so visceral that many flee in terror, swearing never to return. Others speak of seeing a spectral figure of a woman, her gown flowing and pale in the moonlight, her arms reaching out for the child she will never hold again. Cameras and phones, intended to capture proof, inexplicably fail, leaving only the memories of those haunted by what they have experienced. The Crybaby Bridge serves as a stark reminder of the past's grip on the present, its story passed down through generations as a chilling warning. It is a place where the boundary between this world and the next is thin, where sorrow and tragedy are etched into the very landscape, and the cries of the lost are never far from earshot. In the shadowy winters of New England, the tale of fair Charlotte is whispered among families, a haunting reminder of vanity and foolish pride. On a bone-chilling New Year's Eve, Charlotte, a young girl renowned for her beauty, was preparing to attend a grand winter ball. She chose a dress of delicate silk, the latest fashion, a gown that shimmered in the candlelight and caught every admiring eye. Her mother urged her to wrap up in thick furs to ward off the bitter cold, but Charlotte refused, scoffing at the idea of covering her beautiful dress with heavy, unsightly coats. As the sleigh arrived to carry her to the ball, the air was sharp and biting, the night blanketed in snow and silence. Her friends, bundled in layers, shivered as they watched her climb into the sleigh, her bare shoulders exposed to the icy wind. As the sleigh bells jingled and they set off into the darkness, the snow began to fall heavily, swirling in the air like ghostly fingers. The ride was long, and the cold like a silent predator. Charlotte, proud and unyielding, ignored the numbness spreading through her limbs, her mind fixed only on her image as she arrived at the ball. Her friends tried to coax her into covering herself with a spare coat, but she laughed them off, her words carried away by the howling wind. "I want them to see me just as I am," she had said, her eyes gleaming with pride. By the time they arrived at the ball, the laughter had ceased, and Charlotte was silent, her head tilted to one side, her face frozen in an eerie, unchanging expression. Her friends shook her, called her name, but Charlotte did not respond. Her skin was cold, her lips blue. She had frozen to death on the journey, her beauty preserved in a ghostly, terrible stillness. News of Charlotte's fate spread quickly, and her story became a cautionary tale across New England. Mothers warned their daughters of fair Charlotte, the girl who had been so consumed by vanity that she sacrificed her life for appearance's sake. Some even claimed that her spirit could be seen on dark, snowy nights, riding in an empty sleigh, her face pale and expressionless, eyes staring blankly into the night, as if forever searching for a warmth that would never return. Today, her story lingers, a chilling reminder to those who hear it. They say if you listen closely on a winter's night, you can hear the faint jingle of sleigh bells and the haunting whisper of a girl's laugh carried on the wind, growing softer until it vanishes into the cold. The tale of fair Charlotte endures as a ghostly warning, a beautiful face, frozen forever in the cruel grasp of vanity and the merciless winter's chill. The legend of HMS Friday is a chilling tale that has haunted the Royal Navy for centuries, a tragic story of defiance against superstition and the disastrous consequences that followed. It is said to be the ultimate proof that some myths should never be challenged. The story begins in the late 17th century, during a time when superstition and folklore held a powerful grip over sailors. Among the most feared of these superstitions was the belief that it was cursed to set sail on a Friday. Ships that embarked on such a day were believed to face certain disaster. Storms, shipwrecks, and death were said to follow those who defied the omen. The Royal Navy, determined to dispel this superstition once and for all, decided to prove that there was no truth to the ancient belief. They would build a new ship, a magnificent vessel, and set sail on a Friday to show that no ill fate awaited them. This ship was to be called HMS Friday, a bold and defiant name meant to mock the superstition and the sailors who believed in it. The ship was constructed with great care and was a marvel of engineering. Its launch was celebrated, and the officers of the Navy were eager to prove that the old fears had no place in the modern world. But as HMS Friday left port on a fateful Friday morning, a sense of unease settled over the crew. Despite their bravado, there was an underlying feeling that something was terribly wrong. At first the voyage seemed uneventful, but soon strange things began to happen. The weather, typically calm and predictable, turned volatile. Storms began to whip up out of nowhere, battering the ship relentlessly. The crew, though experienced and seasoned, struggled to keep the ship steady against the raging waves. It was as though the very sea itself had turned against them. Then, on the third day of their journey, a catastrophe struck. In the dead of night, with the storm howling was torn apart by a violent crash. Some say the ship collided with a massive, unseen force beneath the water, while others claim it was a huge wave that shattered the hull. The ship sank quickly, dragging most of the crew down with it. Only a handful of men managed to survive, clinging to wreckage in the cold, unforgiving sea. When the survivors were rescued, they could barely speak of what had happened. Their eyes were haunted by a terror that no words could express. What they did say was that there had been something else on board. A presence, a shadow that followed them from the moment they set sail. Some whispered that the spirit of the sea had cursed HMS Friday, and that it would never be forgotten. To this day, the tale of HMS Friday is told in hushed tones among sailors and naval officers. The Royal Navy, after that fateful voyage, reportedly destroyed all records of the ship and the crew, as if trying to erase the curse that had befallen them. But the legend lingers, a grim reminder that some superstitions are not to be trifled with. Those who dare to sail on a Friday may still whisper the name HMS Friday, as a warning to those who think they can challenge fate and live to tell the tale. We dive into the eerie legend of the Chonchon, a mythical creature that haunts the night skies. Let its chilling tale lull you into a peaceful sleep, if you dare. Deep in the shadowy forests of Chile and southern Argentina, an ancient terror lurks in the night. Whispered in hushed tones among villagers, the Chonchon is no ordinary creature. Its very existence defies nature, sending shivers down the spines of those who dare speak its name. Legend has it that the Chonchon is not a bird, but a cursed being, a sorcerer who has performed a dark ritual to transform into this horrifying creature. In the dead of night, the sorcerer's head detaches from its body, sprouting enormous wings from the ears. Blood-curdling cries, like the screams of 1,000 tormented souls, signal its arrival. The sound, known as tutu, chills the air, forewarning death for anyone who hears it. They say the Chonchon soars through the night skies in search of prey, gliding silently above the rooftops of unsuspecting villages. Those unfortunate enough to cross its path rarely live to tell the tale. It is said that the Chonchon can slip into homes undetected, like a whisper on the wind, draining the life force of its victims, leaving them pale and hollow by dawn. Those who survive its attack are left forever haunted, their minds shattered by the encounter. Many have tried to catch a glimpse of the Chonchon, but only a few ever return from their hunts, and those who do are never the same again. Their descriptions are fragmented, as though the horror of what they witnessed burned itself into their minds. The Chonchon's eyes, they say, are glowing red orbs, filled with a malevolent intelligence far older than time. Its wings beat with unnatural silence, a deadly predator slipping through the night like a phantom. It is said that only the most skilled of shamans can undo the curse of the chanson, but these rituals are dangerous, and failure means the sorcerer's twisted form will be free to wreak havoc for eternity. To this day, villagers lock their doors and windows tight when they hear the faintest whisper of the chanson's cry. The wind, though invisible, might carry death with it, for the chanson does not rest. It hungers, always searching for its next victim, always lurking in the darkness, just out of sight. So, beware the stillness of the night, for you may never know if the next faint flap of wings you hear belongs to the chanson until it's too late. In the dead of night, there's a number whispered among those brave, or foolish, enough to try. 999-9999. According to the legend, if you dial this number after midnight, an eerie voice on the other end will answer, ready to grant your deepest, darkest wish. But there's a catch. Whatever you ask for will come true, but your life will be the price. The legend has it that the voice on the other end is patient, almost amused, as if it's heard countless desperate pleas before. You might hear soft breathing or the faint sound of something shifting, waiting for you to speak your desire. Ask for fame, fortune, or revenge, and it's granted, swift and precise. But the moment your wish is fulfilled, your fate is sealed. Witnesses claim that people who dared to make the call found themselves in strange, terrifying accidents shortly after, as if some unseen force had come to collect their due. Stories tell of a girl who dialed the number to become the most popular student in school. She achieved her wish, but within days she was found dead under mysterious circumstances. Her phone lying beside her, with 9999999 still on the screen. Another tale recounts a young man who asked for unimaginable wealth, only to be discovered lifeless in his luxury apartment just days later, the phone's last call pointing to that same cursed number. In 2002, the legend inspired a horror film, 9999999, where the cursed number brings terror to those who dare to test its power. Even today, some thrill seekers and skeptics dial 9999999 after midnight, hoping to prove the legend false. But as the silence stretches on and the dial tone fades, some swear they hear a faint voice, asking softly, "What is your wish?" On the crisp, dark evening of September 12th, 1952, the quiet town of Flatwoods in Braxton County, West Virginia, became the stage for one of the most terrifying encounters ever reported. The Flatwoods Monster. What began as a streak of light cutting across the sky quickly turned into a nightmare, etched into the memories of those who dared to investigate. It started innocently enough. A group of young boys playing outside saw a blazing object streak through the sky before crashing into the wooded hills nearby. Intrigued and full of curiosity, they gathered a few adults and ventured into the dark woods to locate the mysterious object. Armed with flashlights, they climbed the rugged terrain, their breath visible in the crisp night air as an unsettling stillness began to surround them. As they approached the crash site, the air grew thick with a foul, metallic stench that stung their noses and throats. The trees seemed unnaturally quiet, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Then, in the pale beam of their flashlights, they saw it. A figure that would haunt their dreams for years to come. standing nearly 10 feet tall. It was a towering, grotesque entity that defied explanation. Its face glowed with a sickly red light, framed by what appeared to be a hood or helmet shaped like an inverted spade. Its eyes, cold, piercing, and unblinking, stared down at them, radiating an otherworldly menace. The creature's body, if it could even be called that, was encased in metallic armour-like plating, tapering into claw-like appendages that seemed ready to strike. It emitted a low, mechanical hiss, a sound that made their skin crawl. The group stood frozen in terror, unable to move as the being hovered eerily above the ground, exuding an aura of dread that seemed to grip their very souls. Suddenly, the creature began to move, gliding toward them with an unnatural, almost mechanical precision. Panic took over, and the group fled, stumbling and screaming as they tore through the woods, desperate to escape the nightmare. When they finally burst into the safety of their homes, their faces were pale, their voices trembling as they recounted what they had seen. Word of the encounter spread quickly, and soon the Flatwoods monster became a sensation, drawing investigators, reporters, and skeptics from across the country. Some speculated it was an alien being, perhaps the occupant of the crashed object they'd seen in the sky. Others believed it was a phantom, an omen of something dark and malevolent. Regardless of the theories, one thing was certain: those who saw it were forever changed. In the days that followed, residents reported strange phenomena: unexplained lights flickering in the night sky, animals behaving erratically, and an unshakable feeling of being watched. The foul odour lingered in the woods for weeks, as if the creature had left a piece of itself behind. Despite exhaustive searches, no trace of the monster or the supposed crash site was ever found, leaving the incident shrouded in mystery. Even now, decades later, the legend of the Flatwoods monster endures. Locals speak of it in hushed tones, warning visitors not to venture into the woods alone. They say that on certain nights, when the sky is clear and the stars burn bright, you can still feel its presence, watching, waiting, hidden among the trees. Whether it was an alien, a spectre, or something far darker, the Flatwoods monster remains one of the most chilling and unexplained encounters in American history. A reminder that some things lurking in the dark are beyond human comprehension. Let's journey into the mysterious world of the Boo Hags, a spine-chilling urban legend from the Gullah culture. Relax, close your eyes, and let this eerie tale guide you into sleep. The legend of the Boo Hags originates from the Gullah culture, deeply rooted in the coastal regions of South Carolina and Georgia. These skinless, vampire-like witches are said to be evil souls who remain in the mortal world after death, seeking out the living to continue their existence. Unlike traditional vampires, Boo Hags don't drain their victims of blood. Instead, they feed off their breath, leaving their prey exhausted and lifeless. According to the legend, Boo Hags are born from wicked souls who fail to move on to the afterlife. Without their skin, they appear grotesque, raw, red, and sinewy, making it impossible for them to blend in with the living. To navigate the human world, Boo Hags steal the skin of their victims, slipping it on like a disguise. Once they've taken someone's skin, they go out into the night to ride. This is a term used to describe their haunting behaviour, where they visit the homes of unsuspecting victims and take control of their bodies while they sleep. The process begins when a Boo Hag silently enters a home, usually through cracks or open windows, as they are believed to be capable of squeezing through the smallest of spaces. Once inside, they sit on the chest of their sleeping target, feeding on their breath and life energy. As the boo hag drains its victim, the person will experience intense nightmares, leaving them physically weakened by morning. While the boo hag feeds, the victim is paralysed, unable to move or wake. By dawn, the witch leaves its victim, slipping away before anyone realises what happened. However, boo hags have a weakness. They must return the skin they've stolen before sunrise, or they will be exposed and destroyed by daylight. If caught without their skin, they are vulnerable and can be easily defeated. To protect themselves, people in Gullah communities often took precautions to ward off these sinister beings. One method involved placing a broom by the door or scattering rice on the floor, as boo hags are said to be compelled to count small objects. If a boo hag becomes distracted by counting, it won't have enough time to finish before the sun rises, forcing it to retreat to avoid being caught. Another common belief is that painting windowsills and doors blue, a colour thought to repel evil spirits, can keep boo hags from entering a home. The colour, known as haint blue, is a staple in many Gullah households, used to protect against a range of supernatural threats, including boo hags. Those unlucky enough to fall victim to a boo hag may wake up feeling completely drained, as if they've run a marathon in their sleep. The exhaustion is a telltale sign that a boo hag visited during the night. If a boo hag becomes particularly attached to a victim, they may return night after night, eventually leading to the victim's death through sheer exhaustion and depletion of life energy. The boo hag legend is a chilling reminder of the dangers lurking in the shadows of the night. It warns people to be cautious, vigilant, and to protect themselves against malevolent spirits that may be waiting to take their skin for a deadly ride. The story continues to be passed down through generations. In the shadowed realms of rural lore, where the line between jest and truth blurs, the legend of cow tipping haunts the fields and farmyards. Said to be a moonlit escapade for thrill-seeking youths, this bizarre activity involves the stealthy approach towards an unsuspecting cow, fast asleep standing upright in the darkness, and the sudden, forceful shove to topple the massive beast over for mere sport. But beyond the surface of this seemingly harmless prank lies a more chilling narrative, whispered among those who know the countryside's true face after dark. As the legend goes, in a secluded farming community, enveloped by the embrace of ancient woods and forgotten roads, cow tipping became more than just a reckless pastime. It morphed into a ritual of fear. The teens of this town, driven by boredom and the intoxicating rush of defiance, would venture out into the fields under the guise of night, their laughter slicing through the silence like a cold wind. But there was one night that turned their mischievous jaunt into a nightmare. As the group approached a familiar pasture, the moon hung low and ominous, bathing everything in a ghostly silver hue. The cows stood like monolithic statues in the mist, their breath forming clouds in the crisp air. Emboldened by the eerie night, the teens singled out a large, shadowy figure at the edge of the field. With a mix of exhilaration and alcohol-fueled bravado, they crept up to the sleeping cow. However, as they laid their hands on the creature, ready to push, the cow did not budge. Instead, it slowly turned its head, revealing not the docile eyes of a farm animal, but the glowing red orbs of a creature from deeper shadows. The teens froze, their hearts pounding as the cow, or the thing that masqueraded as one, rose unnaturally on its hind legs, towering over them with a menacing presence. Panic erupted as the creature chased them through the fields, its form blurring between beast and spectre, its bellows a grotesque parody of bovine grunts mixed with something far older and angrier. The youths scattered, screaming into the night, forever marked by the terror of what they had provoked. Those who returned spoke little of the incident, their eyes haunted by the memory. The story spread, a cautionary tale whispered around campfires and during late-night gatherings. Cow tipping was no longer seen as a harmless challenge, but as a dare with potentially dire consequences. To this day, the fields at the edge of that town remain untouched at night, the cows left to their peaceful slumber. For the locals know that some rural myths are better left untested, and that disturbing the natural order can awaken things best left asleep in the darkness. In the heart of ancient folklore, there exists a creature born from the earth itself, a hulking figure of clay and stone, shaped by human hands, but driven by dark, unnatural forces. This creature is known as the golem, and its legend has haunted the corners of Eastern Europe for centuries. The golem is not a creature of grace. It is slow, lumbering, and awkward in its movements, a giant made of lifeless matter, animated only by the dark magic that gives it form. Its body is a rough, uneven mass of clay or rock, patched together with crude seams, and its face is blank, expressionless, an unfeeling mask devoid of humanity. Some say it was created to serve its master, a protector summoned from the earth itself to do his bidding. Others whisper that the golem was born from desperation, created by a rabbi or wizard to avenge wrongs too terrible to bear. In modern Hebrew, the word golem translates to cocoon, but it also carries darker meanings: fool, silly, or stupid. And indeed, the golem is often described as lacking in intelligence, nothing more than a clumsy tool of destruction, incapable of independent thought or action. But this is where the terror begins, because while the golem is a mindless servant, it is also a force of nature, a brute, unstoppable and powerful, with strength far beyond that of any human. Once unleashed, it will follow its master's commands without question, no matter how horrific. And yet, when those commands are left unclear or unrestrained, the creature can become a terror in its own right, wreaking havoc in its mindless pursuit of tasks it cannot understand. The golem is said to be bound by a single, fragile command, the inscription of a word, often placed on a piece of parchment and placed inside its mouth. Without this word, the creature is a blank slate, mindless and deadly, its power unchecked. In the ancient stories, there were whispers of golems running amok, destroying villages, crushing anyone who crossed their path, all because their creators failed to control them. And so, the golem is a warning, a tale of what happens when humanity meddles too far with the natural order, summoning forces they cannot control. Some say the golem still walks the earth, waiting for a master to breathe life back into its stone heart. But be careful, if the golem ever awakens again, it will not stop, no matter how clumsy or foolish its creators may have been. In the still, silent nights of Fresno, California, an unsettling legend stalks the imagination of locals, the Fresno night crawlers. First captured on CCTV footage, these strange, otherworldly creatures have haunted the town's darkened streets, their appearance as bizarre as it is terrifying. Described as white, elongated beings with impossibly long legs and tiny, featureless torsos, they move with an eerie, almost hypnotic gait, as if gliding rather than walking. To many, they resemble nothing more than disembodied, ghostly pairs of trousers, yet their unsettling presence is anything but laughable. The first sighting came from a homeowner who, curious about strange noises outside, reviewed their security footage. What they saw left them speechless. Two pale figures emerging from the shadows, their legs stretched unnaturally tall, each step slow and deliberate, almost as if they were floating. The smaller of the two trailed behind, its movement unnervingly synchronized with the larger one. As they vanished into the night, the homeowner was left with a chilling realization. Whatever these beings were, they were not human. The footage quickly spread, drawing the attention of cryptid enthusiasts and skeptics alike. Some claimed the night crawlers were extraterrestrial visitors, their strange forms adapted to a planet with gravity unlike Earth's. Others whispered that they were spirits, ancient guardians tied to the land, warning of some impending doom. Still, others feared they were harbingers of something far darker, beings from another dimension, crossing into our world for reasons unknown. The sightings didn't stop. Reports emerged of people spotting the night crawlers in nearby woods, gliding silently among the trees, their spindly forms illuminated by the pale light of the moon. Hikers described the forest growing unnaturally quiet, the air thick with unease, as if the creatures were aware of their presence and watching from just out of sight. Some who encountered them spoke of an overwhelming dread, a primal fear that gripped their hearts and left them paralysed. Locals now warn against wandering too far into the dark Fresno woods, especially at night. Those who've ventured too close to where the night crawlers have been seen report strange phenomena, unexplainable static on devices, sudden cold spots, and faint whispering sounds that seem to follow them home. To this day, no one knows what the Fresno night crawlers are or what they want. Skeptics dismiss them as clever hoaxes or optical illusions, but those who've seen the footage or encountered them firsthand tell a different story. They believe the night crawlers are watching, observing humanity with motives shrouded in mystery. Their slow, silent steps are warning to stay away. The Fresno night crawlers remain one of the most bizarre and chilling cryptid tales in modern folklore, a reminder that some things move through the shadows of our world, unnoticed until they choose to reveal themselves, leaving nothing but fear in their wake. In the late 1970s, a quiet council house at 284 Green Street in Enfield, London, became the centre of one of England's most chilling supernatural tales, the Enfield poltergeist. Between 1977 and 1979, the Hodgson family, especially two young sisters, Janet and Margaret, found themselves at the mercy of a malevolent force lurking within their home. What began as strange noises soon spiralled into a full-blown haunting that would terrify all who witnessed it. The haunting started subtly, objects shifting, knocking sounds echoing through the night. But as days passed, the activity grew more violent. Furniture slid across rooms by unseen hands, toys flew through the air, and chilling voices filled the house. At the heart of it all was Janet, just 11 years old, who appeared to be the poltergeist's primary target. She would often fall into violent trances, speaking in a guttural voice that was far from her own, claiming to be an old man who had died in the house. Witnesses, including police officers and paranormal investigators, were horrified as they saw objects move and heard disembodied voices with their own eyes and ears. One officer reported seeing a heavy chair slide across the floor, while investigators observed Janet levitating and being thrown from her bed as if lifted by invisible hands. The poltergeist's presence was relentless, bringing a sense of dread and terror to everyone involved. Attempts to communicate with the spirit revealed its bitter rage and violent intent. It would mock the family, taunt the investigators, and even threaten threaten anyone who dared to interfere. Those who entered the house often felt an overwhelming coldness, a suffocating presence pressing down on them. The Enfield poltergeist remains a mystery, dividing skeptics and believers alike. Some claim it was a hoax, a trick played by young girls seeking attention, but others insist the terror was real, that the house on Green Street was truly haunted by a force beyond this world. Even today, the Enfield poltergeist stands as one of the most disturbing cases of supernatural activity, a dark chapter in London's history that lingers in the shadows, a warning that some spirits do not rest easily. In the desolate hills of Bridgewater Corners, Vermont, a chilling legend whispers through the icy winds. The story of the Frozen Hill people, a tale as bleak as the winters that shroud the region. It begins on December 21st, 1887, a winter so cruel that it buried the hills under an unforgiving blanket of snow and ice, sealing off a poor family of hill farmers from the rest of the world. What happened in their isolated home during those endless frigid nights remains one of Vermont's darkest mysteries. The family, so impoverished they could barely afford to feed themselves, was known for their reclusive nature. They lived high in the hills, where even the hardiest dared not venture during winter's peak. As the snow piled higher, cutting them off completely, rumours spread in the nearby towns. Weeks passed with no sign of life from their cabin, no smoke curling from the chimney, no tracks in the snow. The silence was as suffocating as the frost. When the thaw finally came, a few brave townsfolk ventured to the cabin, fearing the worst. What they found chilled them to their very cores. The family's bodies were discovered, eerily preserved in the ice, frozen in unnatural positions. Their eyes, wide open, seemed to stare with an unsettling awareness, as if they had seen something horrific in their final moments. The mother sat upright in her chair, her hands clasped as if in prayer, her frozen face twisted in terror. The children were found huddled together in a corner, their mouths agape in silent screams. And the father, he was by the door, his hands bloodied, as if clawing at the wood in a desperate attempt to escape. But what truly horrified the townsfolk were the signs that something far darker had transpired. Strange symbols had been scratched into the walls, crude and jagged, as if made in a frenzy. Furniture was overturned, and strange claw-like marks marred the floor, leading to the snow-covered woods behind the cabin. Some claimed they could feel an oppressive presence in the room, an icy chill that wasn't from the weather. The legend grew, with whispers that the family had summoned something during their isolation, something ancient, malevolent, and hungry. Others believed they had been cursed by the very hills they tried to conquer, the land itself reclaiming their lives as punishment. To this day, locals avoid the area, swearing that on cold, moonlit nights, the cabin reappears, its windows glowing faintly with a ghostly light. Hikers who stray too close have reported hearing faint voices carried on the wind, desperate prayers, frantic whispers, and chilling screams that seem to echo from the past. Some claim to have seen frozen figures staring from the shadows of the trees, their eyes unblinking, their faces frozen in eternal terror. The Frozen Hill people remain a haunting reminder of nature's merciless grip and the darkness that can creep into the minds of the isolated. Their story lingers, as cold and unyielding as the winters that claimed them, a warning to all who dare to tread 1972, artist Bill Stoneham created a painting that would become infamous for its unsettling aura and terrifying legend. The Hands Resist Him depicts a young boy and a doll standing in front of a glass-panelled door, behind which dozens of disembodied hands are pressed against the glass, reaching, clawing, trying to break through. But it is not just the eerie image that haunts those who see it. It is the belief that the painting's characters are not as still as they seem. The legend surrounding the painting is chilling. Some claim that at night, when the lights go out and the house falls silent, the boy and the doll begin to move. The boy, with his vacant stare, steps forward from the painting, while the hands on the glass seem to writhe, as if alive. The doll, always watching, has been said to wander the room, creeping silently across the floor. Those unlucky enough to own the painting report strange occurrences. Items going missing, cold drafts, and the feeling of being watched when no one is there. But the true terror lies in the whispers that the boy and the doll sometimes leave the painting entirely. They step out of the canvas and into the world, taking on a life of their own, only to return before morning's light. No one knows where they go or what they do when they leave, but the horror is clear. The painting is not a simple image. It is a doorway